Hello, friends and family of Grace Lutheran Church. Today I want to talk to you about our closing hymn for the third Sunday after Pentecost. It's called We Are Called to Stand Together. It's number 828 in the Lutheran Service Book. And this is one of the newer hymns in our hymnal. The text was written in 1995 and our tune is from 1973. So relatively new, but also one of my favorites, at least the tune. This tune is called Ascended Triumph, and it is also the tune that we use for a hymn called Up Through Endless Ranks of Angels, which we've talked about before in these videos. And I have this tune stuck in my head all the time for basically no reason. Maybe we haven't sang it in weeks in church, and I still will be walking through the hallways singing this or humming this in my brain. Usually with the words of Herald Sound the Note of Judgment, which is not even a hymn that's associated with this tune, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, love this tune. I think one of the reasons I like it so much, or a combined reason, is because it is in a minor key, one of my favorite things about certain hymn tunes, and it's very strong. It sounds powerful and like stalwart is the word I want to use, right? It has these open fifths that play in each of the three phrases of the hymn. We are called to stand together with the saints of ages past. That's not definitely in the right octave there, but this strong sounding tune. I listened to an interesting recording today from a 2010 installation of LCMS officers and leaders that took place at Concordia Seminary. And I say it was an interesting recording because it was taken on like a cell phone that someone had set in the pew next to them while they were singing, but that's okay. You can still hear the hymn pretty well. And it's just got lots of brass and this loud organ and timpani all throughout. Starts out with with like some timpani rolls at the very beginning. It just sounds strong, resolute. It sounds purposeful. And that firmness and resoluteness and purposefulness, I think, is very fitting to go with this text, we are called to stand together. You'll notice if you look at the top of the page that it's in the mission and witness section of our hymnal. I don't know if you can see that. And this is just like our hymn that I talked about last week was from the mission and witness section. And so if we're going to be talking about witness, it makes sense that we would be talking about firmness and resoluteness. This hymn is sort of a story, a history of those firm in faith witnesses in the history of the church. So we kind of walk through the witnesses all through the different ages of the church. And we begin in verse 1 talking about the patriarchs and the prophets. The author connects us with them, saying that we are called to stand together in that same faith that the patriarchs and prophets once held fast. Promises and hopes that they once treasured, now we find fulfilled at last. So we live in that same hope of the Messiah, a hope that they looked forward to at one time, and a hope that we now stand in fulfilled and looking forward to the ultimate fulfillment at the end of time. But we stand in that same faith with those first witnesses for us, those witnesses of the Old Testament. And then verse 2 moves continuing through the Bible and talks about our witnesses of the New Testament, specifically the apostles, who were witnesses to Jesus' teaching, who felt his power, the hymn says, who saw the way that Jesus lived and died, and then, after seeing the resurrection, carried the news far and wide, that good news of Jesus' death and resurrection for the salvation of all people. So we've got witnesses from the Old Testament that we're connected to, witnesses from the New Testament. Verse 3 moves through and talks about witnesses in the intervening ages. Talks about how the world, that good news that we talked about the disciples delivering in verse 2, has now spread all through the world by a number of what the hymn calls faithful heralds, people who carried the news of Jesus to their neighbors and to their friends and to people they didn't know in the mission field. And verse 3 then tells us through this work, the church has grown in number. Now there's millions of people that we can count in the number of the church. So Old Testament, New Testament, intervening ages, and verse 4 talks about the result of all of that hard work of those groups of people. It says, now in many tongues and cultures, songs of celebration ring. Millions who confess our Savior honor him as Lord and King. And for courage, grace, and guidance every day, their prayers they bring. The church is all through the world, a huge number of people, and that is indeed cause for celebration. But it's not, the celebration does not bring an end to the witnessing. We celebrate while we still work, and that's what verse 5 talks about. Verse 5 is our call to action. Verse 5 tells us, to each coming generation, tell the truth, persuade, explain, till the time when time is ended, till the Savior comes again, till the saints are all united under Christ's eternal reign. This reminds me of just what we talked about last week in church in Pastor's sermon. We are also called to be witnesses with the patriarchs, the prophets, the apostles, the faithful heralds in those intervening ages. We are called to join in that harvest of those plentiful souls, right? Where Jesus says that the harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. We are called also to be those laborers. Remember, Pastor said that there are people, that doesn't sound right to say there's people standing in corners of fields that only you can reach, but there are stalks of grain, people, souls that maybe Pastor can't reach, that I can't reach, but that you can. So this hymn is a great sending hymn for all of us this week to remind us to go out and carry the strength that Christ gives us to face the troubles of this world. And Pastor's going to talk a lot about that in his sermon, to take that strength and that joy of Christ and to go out and to share it with everyone else so that they can also join in that celebration that this hymn talks about at the end of time. So we will see you guys in church on Sunday. Thanks for listening, and thanks for standing together with us in faith. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.